At dawn on December 1st, 1948, a man lay dead on a quiet Australian beach. His body looked almost peaceful, neatly dressed, polished shoes, no sign of violence. But when police began examining him, something unsettling became clear. Every label had been carefully removed from his clothes. His pockets contained a bus ticket, a train ticket, a pack of chewing gum, a comb, cigarettes, but no wallet, no identification, no name, and no one in the entire country seemed to know who he was. This was the beginning of what would become one of the most baffling mysteries in modern criminal history, the Tamam Shud case. The body was discovered on Somerton Beach, near the city of Adelaide in South Australia. It was early morning when a man walking along the sand noticed the figure lying against the seawall. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. The man looked as if he had simply fallen asleep. But something about the posture was strange. The unknown man was leaning back with his legs stretched out, his head resting against the wall. One arm was extended, the other lay beside him. A half-smoked cigarette rested on the collar of his coat. By the time police arrived, rigor mortis had already begun. Whoever he was, he had been dead for hours. Witnesses later came forward claiming they had seen the man the night before. Around 7 p.m., several people noticed him sitting in the same spot on the beach. At one point, a passerby thought he saw the man raise his arm weakly before letting it fall back down. They assumed he was drunk. No one imagined they were watching someone die. At the morgue, investigators began a routine examination, but the routine quickly turned into confusion. The man appeared to be about 40 to 45 years old. He was physically fit, well-groomed, and showed no obvious signs of illness. His fingerprints did not match any known records. His teeth showed no dental work that could help identify him. And most strangely of all, there were no marks indicating manual labor. This was a man who likely had a comfortable life, yet no one had reported him missing. Then came the clothes. His outfit was neat but peculiar. He wore a suit jacket, dress shirt, tie, trousers, socks, and polished shoes. But every single label had been carefully removed from the jacket, from the trousers, even from the tie. It was as if someone had intentionally erased any trace of where the clothing had been purchased. Investigators searched every seam. Inside one pocket, they found a small, tightly rolled piece of paper. 2 words were printed on it, Tamam Shud. The phrase was unfamiliar to the police. Eventually, they learned it came from a Persian book of poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Translated roughly, the phrase means, "It is finished," or simply, "the end." The phrase appeared on the final page of the book, which meant the scrap of paper had been torn from the very end of a copy of the Rubaiyat. But whose copy? And why had the dead man been carrying the final words of a centuries-old poem? Months passed without answers. Then, in an almost unbelievable coincidence, a man came forward with new information. Shortly after the body had been discovered, he had found a strange book in the back seat of his car. He had parked his car near Somerton Beach on the night of the death. When he returned later, the book was simply there. The book was a copy of the Rubaiyat, and when investigators examined it, they found that the final page had been torn out, exactly where the words Tamam Shud would have been printed. It appeared the scrap found in the dead man's pocket had come from this very book. But the book contained another strange discovery. Inside the back cover were faint pencil markings. They looked like a coded message, 5 lines of random letters, no obvious meaning, no clear pattern. Cryptographers, intelligence officers, and amateur codebreakers all studied the message for years. No one has ever definitively solved it. But the book contained something else, a phone number written in pencil. Investigators traced the number to a young nurse living just a few hundred meters from where the body had been found. Her name was Jessica Thompson. When police visited her home and showed her a plaster cast of the dead man's face, witnesses said she nearly fainted. But she denied knowing him. She insisted she had never seen the man before. However, there was another strange connection. Years earlier, during World War II, Jessica had given a copy of the Rubaiyat to an Army lieutenant. His name was Alf Boxall. Investigators immediately feared the worst. Perhaps the body belonged to him. But when police tracked Boxall down, he was very much alive. And he still had his copy of the Rubaiyat, the same book Jessica had given him, with the final page still intact. So if the dead man wasn't Boxall, why was another copy of the same book tied to Jessica's phone number? And why had she reacted so strongly when she saw the man's face? Police suspected she knew more than she admitted, but they could never prove it. Jessica remained silent for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, the medical mystery deepened. The autopsy revealed something disturbing. The man's organs were congested with blood. His spleen was enlarged. His liver showed signs consistent with poisoning. Yet toxicology tests found nothing. Doctors believed he had likely ingested a rare or fast-acting poison that left almost no trace. Possibly something experimental, or something used by intelligence agencies during the Cold War. The late 1940s were the early days of the Cold War. Across the world, intelligence agencies were building networks, passing secrets, and eliminating problems quietly. Australia itself had already uncovered Soviet espionage operations. Suddenly, the strange details around the Somerton man took on a darker tone. Clothing labels removed, a coded message hidden in a book, a mysterious connection to a nurse living near the beach, and a possible poison that left almost no trace. It sounded disturbingly similar to something else, a covert operative who had gone wrong, or someone who had been silenced. But if he was a spy, one question remained, the most unsettling question of all. Someone, somewhere, should have recognized his face. Yet for decades, no one did. The case slowly faded into legend. The unknown man became known as the Somerton Man, or simply, the Tamam Shud man. For more than 70 years, his identity remained a complete mystery. Until recently. In 2022, scientists finally extracted usable DNA from preserved hair samples. Using advanced genealogical analysis, researchers traced distant relatives across the world. The results pointed to a possible identity: a man named Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer born in Melbourne. But even if this identification is correct, it only answers one question: who he was. It still does not explain why he died, or how he ended up alone on a beach with a cryptic message from a Persian poem in his pocket. Was he a spy carrying coded information during the early Cold War? Was he a lover involved in a secret relationship that ended in tragedy? Was the nurse protecting a secret she took to the grave? Or was the truth something even stranger that we still haven't imagined? More than 7 decades later, the Somerton man continues to challenge investigators, historians, and codebreakers alike. A perfectly ordinary body, a perfectly ordinary beach, and a mystery that refuses to end. So here's the question that still haunts this case. If you had found a scrap of paper in your pocket that simply said, "It is finished," what would you think happened on that beach that night?